1.5 crore rupees, and people who sell alcohol or manufacturers of ice cream or other tobacco products, or people who make interstate supplies, they are not eligible to opt for this scheme. They are out of it.
Okay.
Next slide, please. So the conditions, these conditions should be fulfilled to in order for a small business, means these conditions should be fulfilled by those people who can wants to opt for this composite levy scheme, but these conditions should be fulfilled. Like they cannot opt for an input tax credit system. Moreover, they should not sell alcohol, and they should not be dealing with interstate supplies. And also an individual payer cannot be eligible to opt for this. Next slide, please, Ayushi. And so this is the uh, applicable rate of CGST and SGST for people who opt for it, like manufacturers and traders of goods, 1%. Out of that 1%, 5% is the central GST, and 0.5% is the state GST. And restaurants which do not serve alcohol, they the total composite levies implied on them is 5%, out of which 2.5% is for the central GST and 2.5% is for state GST, and other service providers it's 3.5 3%, 3%. Okay, and now Ayushi would continue. Sorry, Sanchit would continue.
Okay.
So I would be talking about the GST registration. So GST registration is a most fundamental document required for the identification for the taxpayers, ensuring that they are adhering to the tax compliances in the economy. Without registration, a person can neither collect tax from the customer nor they can avail for the credit for the tax paid. Registration legally authorizes the supplier to collect tax from the customers and authorize the suppliers to claim input on tax paid on their purchase. Suppliers are also required to obtain the state-wise registration. So, under GST law, registration is PAN based, from which it is inferred that once a supplier is liable for register, he has also obtained a registration in each of the states, as well as union territories in which he operates under the same PAN. So the provision relating to the registrations are covered under the chapter from 4 registration session 22 to 30 of CGST Act, and chapter 3 registration
So,
rules.
Ayushi, I'd like to interrupt you. Now, just tell me, suppose there is a person who is, having a business in Bombay and Delhi. So, will he have two registrations or one registration?
He would have one registration, sir.
Anybody? Kishore? Or will he have multiple registrations?
Sorry, sir, can you repeat once again?
Suppose if, a person has, a business in Bombay as well as Delhi. Okay. So, he's operating from two places
Yes,
in
sir.
India. So, will he have one registration under GST or he'll have two registrations?
Sir, I think he will have two registrations. In both the different places, he'll have to register himself.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so yeah, absolutely right. Ayushi, just please note,
Okay,
he can have
okay,
multiple
okay,
registrations. Okay, fine.
okay, okay,
Even if he's in Delhi, suppose he is having two businesses. He's selling cars as well
okay,
as he's selling scooters. So he can have two registrations for his sale for car as well as for two different verticals. Okay. So
okay.
you said
Or
So
that.
else he
actually,
would.
the thing is that I thought the GST number you are referring to. It's my mistake from my end.
No, no issues, no issues. So
Oh,
GST. So I think you
okay.
also read that somewhere. That's why I asked you.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it
For
is
the
there in your.
registration in each of the states and union territories, he
Yeah,
wants
yeah.
to operate. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. So go ahead, please.
Okay.
Go ahead. So this is
Okay.
important, so
Sure.
I thought I'll just check with that.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure, sir. Thank you, sir. So taxable person, session 2, 107. Tax on supplies for goods and services is to be paid by taxable person. A taxable person means a person who is registered or liable to be registered under the act. An unregistered person who is liable to be registered as a taxable person, a person who is not liable to be registered but has taken voluntary registration and got himself registered is also a taxable person. So this is a threshold limit for the registration. Every supplier of goods or services or both is required to obtain a registration in the state or union territory from where he makes a taxable supply for his aggregate turnover exceeds rupees 20 lakhs or rupees 10 lakhs if a person is carrying out businesses in a special category states such as Mizoram, Tirupura, Manipur and Nagaland. So the way to calculate the aggregate
तो
turnovers for
इसमें
the
एक
set.
important update था, just go back to your this thing and
Okay.
just read,
Yeah.
however, as per the notification. So
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
very
Sorry,
important
sir.
notification.
Yeah.
No issues.
However, as per the notification number 10/2019 CT dated 07/03/2019 exempts any person who is engaged in exclusive supply of goods and whose aggregate turnover from the financial year 19 to 20 does not exceed rupees 40 lakhs from the registration requirement.
So what does it mean? Suppose if you are, supplier of goods, okay, then what is the
Yeah.
limit for taking a registration?
For goods, it is 40 lakhs, and for
Uh,
services, it is 20 lakhs.
हाँ, absolutely. ठीक है, चलो. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Aggregate turnover session 2(6) for the GST Act 2017. So these are the items which I have mentioned above. These items should be added, like the taxable supplies, exempt supplies, exports, and interstate supplies. And the items mentioned below are to be subtracted, like CGST, SGST, UGST, IGST, compensation is value for inward
So what does it
supply with
mean? I mean, if you have to just, sum up this thing, this is your last slide, okay? Then I think Sanchit needs to come back now. So what
no,
does it
sir.
mean?
I have
What does it mean
nothing.
in a normal this thing? Just explain it in a layman's language. So what does the aggregate turnover means for a person? What is aggregate turnover?
See, so the
इसका क्या
aggregate,
significance क्या है? इसका significance क्या है? For calculating what?
the aggregate turnover is a total value of the supplies that the taxable supplies a business has made in a financial year. Like what are the
Okay. So this is for
supplies? Whether
determining, suppose you are
yeah.
a 40 lakh rupees or 20 lakh rupees, whatever, let's say.
Basically, to calculate whether you are exempted or you have to do that.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So all your supplies, output supplies, whether they are exempt, whether they are taxable, whether you are exporting goods outside the country, whether you are supplying from one state to another, all
Yeah.
this needs to be added up to calculate your aggregate turnover. Okay, if it
Yeah.
crosses more than 40 lakhs and you are a good supplier, then you needs to be basically, going for the registration. Otherwise, not. Okay, and it is all net of tax. Okay, if these figures include your tax, then you have to exclude that taxes also. So that is a exclude GST, CST, all. Okay. Have you got it now? What does it mean?
Yes, sir. Sure.
So I have
So this
one
is a
question.
layman version of, yeah. Arvind, tell me, yeah. Arvind, you want to say something?
Sir, sir, inward supplies are not included in aggregate turnover, sir. I want to ask. Sir,
Inward supplies
inward
तो आपकी
supply.
turnover तो है नहीं ना. Inward supplies
Okay.
is not your sale, okay? So
Yes,
when
sir.
you
So
say that you are
they are
liable
not.
for registration, when you are
Yes, sir.
supply, when you are suppose you want to know whether you are eligible, so you have to take a registration or not. So whatever you are selling is important, not what you are purchasing. So inward supplies are your purchases, okay? So आप
Yes, sir.
कितनी
Yes.
सेल कर रहे हो? अगर आप 40 लाख से ऊपर की सेल कर रहे हो तो आपको रजिस्टर होना जरूरी है. तो 40 लाख
Okay,
वो
sir.
सेल है जो आप सारी तरह की सेल है, चाहे एक्सपोर्ट भी है, चाहे वो आप यू आर सप्लाइंग इंटरस्टेट और योर आई मीन सप्लाइंग समथिंग व्हिच इज टोटली exempt sales. So include everything for calculating for this.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
So Ayushi, thank you so much. I mean, next person, please.
Um,
Yeah.
so actually, it's yet to be done right now.
Okay, okay. So please
So,
go ahead.
yeah, compulsory registration in certain cases. So, person making an interstate taxable supplies. However, threshold limit for rupees 20 lakhs, that is 10 lakhs for the special category states, is available in the case of interstate supply of taxable services and of notified handicraft goods. Casual taxable person who occasionally undertake supply transaction making a taxable supply. Therefore, threshold limit for rupees 20 lakhs, 10 lakhs in the case of special category state of Mizoram, Tripura, Manipur, and Nagaland is available. In the case of interstate supply of notified handicraft goods. So the necessary documents, these are the documents necessary for getting a GST registration. That includes PAN cards, Aadhaar card, proof of business registration, bank account details, address, proof of business of place, digital signature if applicable. So online registration process, so we have to go to the portal and get ourselves registered. We have to file in the pan, the legal name of the business, pan, mail address, mobile number, then we get a OTP. After verification of the OTP, it generates a TRN generation, that is a temporary reference number which is valid for 15 days. We have to log in with the TRN through the GST portal in order to complete the registration process. And upon the successful verification of all the documents, so we would be getting the GSTIN number, which is generated, and we'll get a certificate directly in the mail address.
Sure.
So
ठीक है,
after,
आयुषी, I think
okay, sure, sure.
अब आपका हो गया. अब next.
Sure, sure, sir,
Okay,
sure.
Sanchit, yeah. So good. I mean, you've done a good job.
Just a minute, sir, just a minute. I'll just unmute myself.
हाँ. तो संचित का separate presentation है.
No, no, sir. And see, मैं
अच्छा, इसी में.
so I'll be talking about GST exemption. So GST exemptions are specific goods or services that are exempted from the application of GST. In other words, there are certain goods and services that are not covered under the ambit of GST. Next slide, Ayushi. So basically, according to exempt supplies, according to Section 247 of the CGST Act, exempt supply means supply of any goods or services or both, which there are three things which attracts nil rate of tax one, and which are wholly exempt from tax under Section 11, or includes non-taxable supplies as well. Next slide. So basically, what is a non-taxable supply? Non-taxable supply means a supply of goods and services or both, which is not levied on the tax under this act or under the IGST Act. Non-taxable supply is basically goods and services or both, which are under the act, as I mentioned. A transaction must be simply a supply as defined under the GST law to qualify as a non-taxable supply. Answer in the context of India, it refers to basically the goods and services that are outside the purview of GST altogether. They are these. This means that they are not subject to GST and not included in the GST framework. It includes things like petrol, high-speed diesel, natural gas, aviation fuel, etc. And these are the condition of granting the exemptions. The exemption should be in the public interest. It should be by the way of notification. It must be recommended by the GST Council. Absolute exemption or conditional exemption may be for any goods or services, and exemption may be by the way of special orders. These are the different types of GST exemption. The one is absolute exemption, conditional exemption, and partial. In the absolute exemptions, exemptions are provided on the full amount without any conditions or restrictions. It could be a service provided by the RBI, for example. Conditional, as the name mentions, it has some conditions. So with limits. For example, hotel services are exempted up to certain limited, but not fully. Examples like that. And partial exemptions, unregistered suppliers of good within the state to a registered person are exempt from GST under reverse charge. The exemptions, for example, the exemption applies in the aggregate value of supply does not exceed 5,000 per day. Next slide.
Okay.
So this is the difference between exempt, nil rated, zero rated, and non-GST supplies. So in the exempt supplies are taxable, but they do not attract GST, for which the ITC cannot be claimed. As Kajal also mentioned that we cannot claim ITC for that. For example, fresh milk, fresh fruits, curd, beer, etc. Bread. Uh, Zero rated, export supplies made to SEZ, or basically exports to SEZ developers. And nil rates are those supplies that have a declared rate of 0% GST. For example, salts, grains, jaggery, etc. While coming to my last thing, non-GST, these supplies do not come under the purview of GST law. As I mentioned, alcohol is there and petrol is there. So this is the difference between the exempt, nil rated, zero rated, and non-GST supplies. That's the presentation. Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
good. Thank you so much. Okay,
Thank you, sir.
so आपका हो गया आयुषी संचित and संकल्प. Okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
how was your experience with the subject? I mean, did you find that it was I mean a good one for you basically, or was it